Keynote version. I didn't fall back. Have you rehearsed? People just jumped in.
In which place do you live? Suffolk County? How about you?
I live about 30 miles from here.
What town?
Little town called Westwood. No one heard of it. So basically, it's on the border, right in New York, right on the Massachusetts border. So, you know the Berkshires at all? It's the New York side of the Berkshires. Laura went to college.
College is really
Okay, yeah, you're familiar with it. Right. Yeah. Where's your other sister live?
In Ohio.
Ohio.
She's out here because she's interested in the next
Oh, no, she's life goes on. Yeah, I'm sure she is. I dropped the program. I hope I can reach it here. It's right here. It's okay. Catch your attention. It's all right. I'll get it afterwards.
I have that part of
It's a great day. Kids are so excited.
Excuse me 1 second. Drop my program under the seat. Would you mind? Thanks. So I dumped all our pictures into things today, so I can work on it.
I'll write it down.
Water in the tide of water.
If you want to go up to the
Jennifer Raab. It's a really honor to care for you. Actually, my son just applied for my so hysterical. I'm so happy. I could not believe it. You know, I say it. After my daughter got taken by sororities,
I don't want to start before the judges get seated. Are you comfortable? All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Connie Mayer. I'm the interim president and dean of Albany Law School, and I want to welcome you all to the 18th annual Kate Stoneman Day here at Albany Law School. And this program is, I guess, not for the first time, but a relatively new innovation. It's being streamed live over our website today. So you can log on to our website later and watch it again if it's really good. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, President Jennifer Raab, and our other Stoneman recipients who are with us today. We're especially privileged to have so many esteemed members of the bench and bar with us today, and I want to extend my personal thank you to each of you for your continued support of this program and of the support that you give us for many of our programs here at Albany Law School. For those of you who are new to the Kate Stoneman program, this event honors significant contributions of women in the law, and it's named for the first woman to graduate from Albany Law School, Catherine Stoneman, class of 1898. Kate Stoneman challenged the law of her day and became the first woman admitted to practice law in the state of New York in 1886. So we are very proud of her as our graduate, and we're proud that in 2009, Kate Stoneman was inducted to the National Women's Hall of Fame. The Kate Stoneman program is an important part of the Albany Law School experience, and it allows us to celebrate the contributions of those who advance women in the legal profession. So thank you all again for joining us for the program this afternoon. We have with us 4 women who will join our prestigious circle of Kate Stoneman Award recipients, bringing to 64 the total number of extraordinary individuals who have received this honor since the program's beginning in 1994. I would like to just take a minute and ask past Stoneman Award recipients who might be with us this afternoon to stand so that we can be remembered who you are and give you some recognition. And I know there are some of you. All of our recipients and the recipients that we just recognized continue to amaze and inspire us, and we are very, very happy that you're with us today and could join us for our program this afternoon. I would also like to take a minute to thank the people who helped make this program possible, including the members of the Kate Stoneman Day Committee. Their names are listed in your program, as well as the members of the Women's Law Caucus, who were also very, very helpful in helping us put together the program today. So thank you to everyone who helped us. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Mary Lynch, who is co-chair of the Kate Stoneman Committee, and Mary will introduce our keynote speaker.
And a little bit about the web streaming before I do that. A few years ago, we started web streaming, and thanks to our efficient and effective communications department, headed by Dave Singer. And I'm here to tell you that we have fans. We have people who download us later and watch us. And in fact, tonight I know that we have people who are joined with us today virtually In fact, there's a Kate Stoneman watching going on right now in Del Mar at the home of our beloved founding mother, Professor Kathy Katz, where she is joined by her daughter and I think one or two professors, we're not sure, who was able to show up in time. For those of you who have not had the honor of being taught, mentored, or supported by Catherine Katz, you need to know that she is Albany's modern Kate Stoneman, who paved the way for most of us in this room, man or woman, by refusing to allow the society, faculty, or legal system surrounding her to discriminate based on identity characteristics such as gender, race, sexual orientation, disability. You know, the Stoneman idea originated 18 years ago at a birthday party for Kathy Katz. A lot of good ideas happen around a kitchen table. It was actually a dinner table. There were a number of folks from Albany Law School there who were talking about how we haven't celebrated our women's history. She served as our first Stoneman chair and continues to provide us guidance as she did last evening when a bunch of us, or at least two of us, went over and consulted with her about some guidance on today's program. Kathy, we know you're watching us. I don't know where I'm supposed to look. It's up there. We want you to know how much we love you and appreciate all you do for Albany Law and for our Kate Stoneman program. And now, 18 years later, I have the great honor to introduce to you tonight's keynoter, the 2012 Stoneman keynote speaker, Jennifer Raab. You just never know who you're going to sit next to in torts the first day of law school. My first day, I was fortunate enough to be assigned next to this year's keynote speaker. And although she was clothed from head to toe in flamboyant pink, and this is the 80s, it was jeans and t-shirt or you looked like you came out of the movie Wall Street, you know, with the shoulder pads, etc. Okay. And even though it was torts, I could not foresee all my seatmate would do with her law degree, her talents, her energy, and her commitment to making opportunity for others. In your program, you will find part of her official bio. We couldn't fit all of it in the program. And you'll learn about her many degrees, accomplishments, numerous awards from a wide variety of organizations. It doesn't say that I recused myself from the selection process this year, and it had nothing to do with it. But what her bio, even the longer version, cannot communicate is her passion and joy for paving the way for others. Two major themes are predominant in Jennifer's professional career. First, she values her law degree. And she's a living demonstration that you can do almost anything with it. After law school, she honed her skills as a corporate litigator at two prestigious firms in New York. But she took a little time out to run a political campaign, serve as an issues director for another campaign. And then from 1994 to 2001, she did something else with her law degree. She served as chair of the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission. In 2001, she harnessed her skills, her energy, her knowledge, and experience to lead Hunter College, serving as president of the City University's largest college, which has a population of over 20,000. Believing that lawyers should also be a part of good corporate governance, she's on the steering committee of Direct Women, designed to identify, develop, and support accomplished women attorneys to provide qualified directors needed by the boards of U.S. companies to promote the independence and diversity required for good corporate governance. As president of Hunter, Jennifer's accomplishments have been attracting notice in the news, in the city, in the state, and in the country. She was not the typical choice for a college president, but what made her atypical has also made her successful. As president, she created and nurtured new partnerships for Hunter. She physically expanded the school, making East Harlem a home site for Hunter's Silberman School of Social Work. and through an unusual partnership with Weill Cornell Medical School, established an Ivy League Cornell health corridor. I know that she is particularly proud of her efforts, which resulted in the restoration of Roosevelt House. For those of you unfamiliar with this was the house promised as a wedding gift from Sarah Delano Roosevelt to her son Franklin and his new bride Eleanor. And I think we've all heard of them. This house served as the home and launching ground for President Roosevelt's storied political career. And even more interesting to me, it really was the place where Eleanor first made her forays into public life, civil liberty issues, and politics. Eleanor's lifelong commitment to civil liberties and social progress is honored now at a restored Roosevelt House, which serves as Hunter's Public Policy Institute. As Hunter president, Jennifer brought faculty and administrators renowned in their fields. The statistics also prove her success. Entering SAT scores increased by 89 points in 7 years. They're now 137 points above the national average. The Princeton Review ranks Hunter among the 10 best-valued public colleges in the nation in 2009, 10, and 11. It goes on and on. The school has moved up in positions in all kinds of rankings, and more importantly, is giving really good education to folks who might not otherwise be able to afford it. But Jennifer's professional success as president comes to a second reason that Jennifer is particularly appropriate to be our keynoter tonight. Her loyalty to Hunter is born out of her loyalty to the place that first provided her her own path of opportunity. Jennifer is the first in her family to attend college, and it wasn't really expected by her family that she would go to college at all, never mind to a fancy place like Cornell. However, she won a scholarship to Hunter High School, and the rest, as they say, is history. When Jennifer received the Benjamin Mays Award from an organization called A Better Chance, which works to open the doors for educational opportunities for young people of color, she was quoted as explaining that that honor was very precious to her given her own history. We lived in Washington Heights. The schools were not very good. We had little money, and my widowed mother struggled to make ends meet. I was warned by friends that if I left the neighborhood to attend an all-girls school on the Upper East Side, I would end up as a man-hater and a snob. Despite her friends' warnings, Jennifer did go to Hunter High School. She's returned there to give back to Hunter University and Hunter College, CUNY University. And she continues to be grateful, serving actively with organizations such as the After School Corporation, which has developed and implemented expanded schools by reinventing the traditional school day to provide more learning opportunities for less advantaged public school, elementary, and middle school students. I could go on, but Helen and Tammy won't like that. So, Jennifer, please come up here. Ideals of Kate Stoneman and of our dear friend, Minnie Netter. We are honored to present you with the Miriam N. Netter 72 Kate Stoneman Award. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Mary. Thank you to Dean Connie Meyer for inviting me, and my very special thanks to the Stoneman Committee for allowing me to join your distinguished list of Keynote honorees, including a number of my personal sheroes, Pat Wall, Constance Baker-Motley, and Judith Kay. My warmest congratulations to my fellow award recipients, Judge Garry and Kohout, and to the dear family of Lisa Codispoti. It's truly an honor to be in such distinguished company. Helen Adams McKean, I want to say thank you, though you said I can't because I have to thank Tammy Wyman, so we're going to thank both of you. And of course, thank you to my dear friend, the brilliant and talented Mary Lynch. Mary described how we met on our first day at Harvard Law School, but she graciously omitted the best part of the story. I arrived at Harvard determined to retain my persona of cool and hip New York City girl. So I walked into the first day of class, late, of course, in high heels, probably red stilettos, and some flamboyant getup. If you didn't notice my clothes, you could not have escaped the click, click, click of my heels as I made my seat way up next to Mary, which just happened to be very visibly on the aisle. Expecting her to commiserate, I said in a way too audible whisper, "I really don't want to be called on." She stared at my outfit, which, as she said, didn't exactly blend in with the surrounding Harvard tweed, raised her eyebrows, and said with authentic Bronx snarkiness, "Then why don't you wear a little more magenta?" That was the beginning of a long and precious friendship between two first-generation college and law students who had made their way up from working-class backgrounds to the big time, but were determined to stay true to our roots. Fast forward 3 years to graduation. Mary's father, a supervisor for the New York City bus service, was coming. My mother refused. She said it was anticlimactic because I had had an offer for a prestigious law firm. Now, to be fair to her, she was hiding her anxiety that she would feel out of place in the hallowed halls of Harvard. Neither she nor my father had gone to college, meeting when she worked in a bakery where he delivered bread. We like to say this was a love affair born of carbohydrates. None of my 3 older siblings had gone to college, much less graduated law school. My father died suddenly when I was young, leaving her to raise 2 young children with little money. Nonetheless, I insisted my mother come and proved her fears unfounded. She didn't expect to meet Pat Lynch, Mary's father, an Irish immigrant with a charming brogue. While other families argued constitutional law at the graduation lunch, my mother harangued Mary's father about how the buses on the number 5 line bunched up. 4 would come in a row and then none for an hour. It was an outrage, she claimed. He promised to fix it, and they, like Mary and I, were friends for life. It was very moving that the call informing me about this incredible honor came from Mary Lynch, because our relationship has exposed me to the wonderful work and contributions of Albany Law School. I also know from Mary the deep significance of Kate Stoneman's legacy and of this award. I was surprised and humbled at the news, but to be honest, I accepted immediately, because it's not that easy in my family to be recognized for your work. For all of you Sex and the City addicts, now don't look down, you know who you are. You probably know that my sister was the producer, Jane Raab, remember that credit? My mother always said, I have 2 daughters. One's a college president, and the other makes that dirty TV show. And it was pretty clear who she was more proud of. So I never turned down an award. Because we are in this historic setting, the place where Kate Stoneman attended law school, I want to begin formally by saying, I am Jennifer Raab, and I am a recovering lawyer. So seriously, though, when Mary called me to say I was to receive this great legal honor, I thought there might be some mistake. I assumed she had told the committee that my most significant accomplishment as a lawyer was managing to work at not 1, but 2 high-powered law firms without ever coming close to the partnership track. And then there was what I call the legally blonde caper. As I said earlier, I was a bit of an unconventional Harvard law student, and we didn't even get into the blue fur coat I had to walk around Cambridge in. About 10 years ago, when my daughter was about 7, we went to see some innocuous kids film. The trailers came on. I was preoccupied with work worries when all of a sudden a very blonde woman appeared on screen saying to her friend, I have to go to Harvard Law School. To which the friend replies, why don't you just take a Percocet? I screamed at that line, spilling popcorn and Diet Coke all over my poor child. The trailer was for the movie, of course, Legally Blonde. I didn't think much about the film until I received, some months later, emails from various Harvard Law School classmates, none of whom I'd been particularly close to, regretting how someone had stolen my story for profit, asking if they could represent me in the lawsuit against the producers. But despite my questionable legal background, I hope Ms. Stoneman would see the connections between my life path, where I've tried to push boundaries to contribute to the social good, and her truly courageous journey. And because this honor really belongs to the amazing Hunter College community, I think Kate would appreciate having her name and her accomplishments linked with those of her contemporary in the late 19th century, Thomas Hunter, the founder of Hunter College. So let me start with the connection between these 2 visionaries, who were both ahead of their time, and who both fought in late 19th century New York for a more just and progressive society and a world that valued women. You all know how Kate Stoneman battled to have women admitted to the bar and then became the first woman herself to practice in the state. Her social justice activism is also well celebrated. She campaigned to win women the right to vote and worked with the Temperance Society to stop violence against women. Her career as a teacher, though, is less well known, but was, I believe, the foundation for her later struggles for equality. As a young woman, she left Lakewood, New York, to attend the New York State Normal College, at the time the only state teachers training school. It was very unusual still for women to seek any form of higher education, and this is one of Kate's first pioneer experience. Her teaching credentials allowed her to support herself while she clerked for a lawyer on the side. At the same time, in the 1860s, Thomas Hunter, another bold visionary, was beginning his efforts to create equality for women. Hunter was forced to leave his native Ireland because of his strong views on Irish nationalism not only cost him his job, but made him unemployable in the eyes of the island's British rulers. Fortunately for us, he came to New York and committed himself to creating educational opportunities for women. In 1870, 4 years after Kate Stoneman graduated from that first normal school in New York, which is what teachers' colleges were called, Thomas Hunter founded the second, which would many years later be named for him and known as Hunter College. A true progressive, Thomas Hunter believed that women should not leave the classroom at 14 years old and return the next month as teachers in front of the class. He believed that these women deserved 2 years of content knowledge so they actually understood what they were teaching, a novel concept, and then a year of pedagogical training. He believed deeply in access to education and wrote in somewhat old-fashioned terms now, the Negro should sit next to the Gentile who should sit next to the Jew. The only permissible discrimination was against men, who were not allowed into Hunter until the 1950s and then on only one of our campuses. While Kate Stoneman was fighting for women's suffrage and studying law, Thomas Hunter was establishing only the 9th college in this country to accept women. And he believed that the women educated in this public college that was free and open to all races and religions had an obligation to society to do what we would now call paying it forward. The motto for his new school was something Kate Stoneman also believed, mihi cura futuri, the care of the future is mine. I know I have some Hunter alums here. Can I get some hands? See, all right. Extraordinary judge and a wonderful legal aid director. The old expression was, you can always tell a Hunter girl, but you can't tell her much. Today, we no longer worry about the issue of women's access to higher education. The irony is that because well over half of college students are women, private colleges are desperately courting men for greater balance. Yet the issue of access to college is still pressing because of the out-of-control costs of higher education. While I am so proud to have met so many wonderful students already today, and so proud that so many of you will choose to go into careers in public service, I am frankly worried about how you will afford to send your children to college on district attorney and assemblyman salaries. At a private college, it will cost you $40,000 times 4 years times 2 kids in today's dollars. You do the math. Thomas Hunter was prescient with his solution to access 142 years ago. Although we are no longer free, our tuition is a fraction of private colleges. It is clear that affordable, high-quality public colleges are the building blocks of our new economy. They will open the doors of opportunity for the nation's best and brightest. Opening doors is something you're very familiar with here at Albany Law School. Even before you made history by graduating Kate Stoneman, you were pioneers in diversity. In 1870, the same year Hunter was founded, James Campbell Matthews became the first African-American graduate of Albany Law School, placing him among the nation's first black lawyers. And as a school based on access and opportunity, Hunter feels a kindred bond with Albany Law School, where so many students are the first in their families to attend law school. And we are proud to send at least one of our own graduates every year. Take Alexander Oeganishnan. When Alex was 7, his family immigrated from Azerbaijan to seek better lives in the U.S. His mother worked in a laundry and his father dispatched a cab so that Alex could pursue an education. Inspired by a criminal law class in Hunter's political science department, he applied to Albany Law, and we're proud that he's now here as a thriving 1L. In addition to the connection between Kate Stoneman and Thomas Hunter, I personally relate in my own life and career to Kate's drive to seize opportunities. As a child, I dreamed of changing the world by becoming a lawyer, still an old ambition for a girl at that time, particularly one from a family where no one had ever attended college. My first Kate Stoneman moment occurred when I was 12. As Mary said, I passed the test for a highly selective all-girls public school in the fancy Upper East Side of Manhattan. And as she said, I lived in a rough neighborhood, and they really did tell us that if we went downtown, we'd become man-haters and snobs. I took the risk, was groomed for college, and changed the course of my life. When I applied to Harvard Law, admitting women was no longer an issue, thanks to pioneers like Kate Stoneman, although I must note that Harvard Law is still below 50% women 30 years later. However, when I joined the very white shoe firm of Cravath, Swaine & Moore, I often called on the spirit of Kate Stoneman. Now, before I riff on Cravath, I want to say that I think it's one of the best law firms in the country, and it's where I would ever turn if I were in trouble. But thinking back to 1985, it was amazing to be at a law firm with a partners-only bathroom, which didn't seem to be a problem because there were only 2 women partners, and I actually never found out where they went to the bathroom. Neither woman was in the main practice areas of litigation or corporate, and one had taken the bar without going to law school. Much of my time was spent there horrifying both of these women by wearing pants and organizing feminist gripe sessions when I was not being sent out to endless lunches to see if I could recruit other women associates, which worked, and I'm proud to report there are a number of women partners. Fortunately for my career, I took shameless advantage of the number of women, the small number of women, to finagle 2 leaves of absence to run political campaigns. What Mary didn't know, and I want to put as full disclosure, both candidates lost. So if anyone here ever wants to run a losing campaign, I am your girl. But those campaign experiences did actually help me prepare for a job in academia. As General Eisenhower said when he left his job as head of Columbia University to run for president, I just have to get out of politics. But the deepest connection I feel to Kate is when I left law firm life to re-enter public service. That is where her example, unspeakable, unshakable courage in the face of implacable hostility touches me the most. In 1994, Mayor Giuliani nominated me to be chair of the New York City Landmarks Commission when I was an associate at the law firm of Paul Weiss. The reaction was not pretty. Despite my 6 years of work in urban planning, the preservationists were outraged because I was not one of their own. People insisted the city council should reject me because I was a political hack. Once my appointment was approved, I faced another enormous obstacle, changing the commission's reputation for being obstructionist, anti-development, and constantly involved in controversy. But using the skills from my years as a woman in the law, and again, thank you, Kate Stoneman, I was able to transform a commission with little credibility into a body respected as a fair and efficient arm of government. By the time I left, the New York Times had dubbed me, quote, me, the former political hack, as, quote, the preservation lady, and noted that even Donald Trump was often cowed by my presence. And I actually think I may be one of the few women in the world that's ever said no consistently to Donald Trump. Having established myself as a manager in the public sector, I wanted to use my skills in another area I care deeply about, education. When the presidency of Hunter became available, I felt certain I could really bring this experience and passion to help create a Hunter Renaissance. And I felt an emotional connection to Hunter College. That elite public school for girls in the fancy neighborhood was Hunter College High School. My life had changed on that corner, and I wanted to return to help change the lives of others. But if there was controversy when I was nominated to be Landmarks chair, this was outright war. It didn't matter that I dedicated my career to public service, or that I was a lifelong New Yorker with personal connections to Hunter. Neither did the fact that I had 3 Ivy League degrees, because none of them contained the letters P, H, and D. The New York Times quoted someone who said that trustees were, quote, making a joke of the university by choosing me, something I believe they never would have said of a man with out-of-the-box credentials. And the final story, those of you from New York remember there's a newspaper called The Observer, and they had this really just terrible first-page story. I had somebody read it to me, but they always ran a caricature, and I said, all right, Story's bad, heard it before, but just please tell me I'm so vain. There's no caricature. And then the person took a sigh and said, there's a caricature. So you can actually go through anything. To top it all off, there was a bomb scare on the Hunter campus on the day I arrived to be interviewed. I was put in a room and told I could call my husband or my lawyer. You can imagine my astonishment in getting my Miranda rights during a job interview. I ultimately won the CUNY Board of Trustees vote by a narrow margin. Somehow, channeling my inner Kate Stoneman, I showed up at work the next day and plowed ahead. It's been 10 and a half years, more than twice the tenure of my colleague Larry Summers at Harvard. I think Kate Stoneman would have agreed with Eleanor Roosevelt that a woman, quote, is like a tea bag. You never know how strong it is until it's in hot water. When I became president of Hunter, it had seen better times. Open admissions had lowered expectations, and the college had suffered from years of disinvestment. My goal was to bring back standards while maintaining the core mission of educating talented New Yorkers who could not afford private tuition. We set out again to make Hunter the gateway to the American dream for immigrants, minorities, and children of working families by providing a first-class education at an affordable price. Today, Hunter's reclaimed its title as the jewel of public higher education. Academic standards are up. We are the most sought-after school in CUNY, and the Princeton Review and U.S. News have repeatedly placed Hunter among the top best 5 public colleges in the nation. We are particularly proud that Hunter sends large numbers of women and minority into the sciences where they are so seriously underrepresented. I am so honored that you've allowed me to share my personal story with you today. I commend the Albany Law School for keeping Kate Stoneman's story alive. Now, I suppose there may be some women students in the audience for which there may seem a sense of quaintness about this celebration. Certainly, none of you had to worry about being closed out of law school or being admitted to the bar because you are women. In one way, how wonderful that our progress has emboldened you, our younger generation, and that you see right through our glass ceilings. When Anita Hill returned to Hunter in October to celebrate the speech she had given there 20 years ago, right after the Thomas hearings, we had to explain to most of our students who she was and why she mattered. Progress? Perhaps. I wondered a few years ago when I had the following interchange with my own daughter, who was then 13. I was about to bestow an honorary degree on Gloria Steinem, and my daughter could see I was nervous. I explained how in awe I was of this amazing leader, and ended by saying that she had written my favorite phrase, "A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle." She looked up at me and said, "Mom, that is stupid." And I said, how wonderful, I thought, to see her confidence. She did not believe there was anything a man could do that she could not. Just this past Sunday, the New York Times asked, where is the next Gloria Steinem, and why has no one emerged to take her place? I would answer that my daughter and you, the young women at Albany Law School here, are the next Gloria Steinem, that demands for equality and respect, once seen as singular and radical, are now taken for granted. We don't need one person to take Gloria Steinem's place, or Anita Hill's, or Kate Stoneman's, since their messages are now part of the mainstream. Again, how wonderful. Unfortunately, message delivered did not always mean message received. Today's women face a new challenge, how to turn beliefs into reality. And that's even harder to do when so many think that the problem is already solved. A recent White House report on women's leadership notes a fascinating piece of cognitive dissonance. Large numbers of American women and men, in some surveys as much as 90%, are comfortable with the idea of women in powerful leadership roles. But here's the kicker. While many of these people believe women already hold these positions as often as men, the numbers are not even close. The rate of women in leadership across the professions is stuck at 18%. Less than 20% of law firm partners are women. Even at the largest firm, women attorneys make up just 1/3 of new partners. And even in my field, where women make up a majority of the professoriate, less than 1/4 of college presidents are women. Most run community college, and the overall percent, despite high-profile exceptions like Harvard, Brown, and Penn, hasn't budged in years. As the old ad used to say, we've come a long way, baby. I leave you with the question, is it far enough? In conclusion, in accepting this special award, I would like to make a commitment to fight a fight that I think Kate Stoneman would have believed in. The subjugation of women in her time has its modern equivalent in the young immigrants who were brought to America illegally as children and who now seek a path to citizenship in the only homeland they have ever known. Hunter, like many other public colleges, has opened its doors to many of these young people, and so we know their stories all too well. One woman, who I'll call Natalia to protect her identity, was brought to the U.S. from Poland as a child. She taught herself English, went to high school, and enrolled at Hunter, supporting herself by tutoring and babysitting, the only job she could get without a Social Security card. She graduated with a double major in math and computer science and went on to get a master's degree. But even though Natalia is a brilliant scholar in fields where our nation faces desperate shortages, she can't get a job, not even an unpaid internship. We have at least 400 students like Natalia at Hunter College at any time. Nationwide, the total is estimated at 65,000. They work hard, they get good grades, and yet they cannot become law-abiding, tax-paying citizens they want to be. It is heartbreaking to hear their stories, but if you want to even be practical about it, we spend millions every year to educate these students in colleges like Hunter, then squander this investment by denying them a future. The DREAM Act is a sensible and humane bill that would create a path to citizenship for Natalia and others like her. This is a fight that must continue because no civilized nation criminalizes the conduct of innocent children. And with the support of enough determined people, the DREAM Act will be passed. In honor of Kate Stoneman, and I hope many of you will join me. Thank you again for this extraordinary award. I am so deeply honored to accept it in a spirit of renewed dedication to the courageous ideals of this wonderful woman, Kate Stoneman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim, for those very inspiring and very entertaining remarks. I learned a lot about Mary. That was a lot of fun. The second award of the evening will be given posthumously to Lisa Codispoti, an admired and respected member of the class of 1995. Lisa spent her life's work advocating on behalf of women regarding health care issues. From 2007 until her untimely death this past October, she was senior counsel to the National Women's Law Center. She developed the center's project on women and health reform at both the state and local levels. Prior to her time at the center, she spent 10 years at the Service Employees International Union as a healthcare advocate. In the words of Donnie Young, her professor and friend, it was because Lisa loved the law that she was willing to spend the time searching for answers to injustices. Because of her maturity, intelligence, hard work, and commitment to social justice, and her very quiet struggle with a chronic health condition, she became an inspiration to me. She had a great compassion and love of life, and she lived her personal and professional life in a way that gives meaning and value to what Kate Stoneman fought so hard to achieve. I am honored to present the 2012 Kate Stoneman Award in memory of Lisa Codispoti and ask her husband, Sean Wilson, who's with us this afternoon, to accept the award, and Lisa will be happy to say a few words.
This is the first time I spoke since I lost my wife. So please bear with me. Lisa was everything this award is about. In so many ways, Kate Stoneman and her are sisters. She always told me there's two reasons you become a lawyer. She would so eloquently say, one is because you have a deep respect for law. She never did mention the second reason. A few weeks back, I had received a large box containing her things from the National Women's Law Center. There was a good deal of stuff in this box. One of the items was her favorite book. I had to read the book from cover to cover as soon as I saw it because Lisa's best friend, Beth Cohn, who couldn't be with us today, delivered the box to my house. It only took about 10 minutes, even for someone who mouths words like me. The book is titled Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Cotisbotti. It's an animated story about a boy who wakes up with bubble gum stuck in his hair. It's a hell of a way to start the day, and it doesn't get much better after that. In fact, it ends on very much the same note. And we have all had those days. But that's not the real story. The real story is what we found in the box. There were 2 bookmarks in that box. Not your usual bookmarks that you get at Borders. These were special ones. One was dedicated to James C. Matthews, who was the first African American to graduate out of Albany Law School, and the other was dedicated to Kate Stoneman. The other compelling item we found was taped to the inside cover of a favorite book about a rotten day. It was a fortune cookie. And in it read, your principles mean more to you than money or success. And one has to wonder if she was having one of those days and decided to go have Chinese for lunch. Lisa lived a life with someone with a chronic condition that gave her a perspective that most of us don't have. She knew the shortfalls of our healthcare system and how insurance companies were making billions in profits by issuing denials for pre-existing conditions. She knew how the costs associated with her condition could upset even the most established benefits program offered by any employer. She knew she could not lay that burden on a lesser organization and would find a gentle way to let them know she couldn't accept the decisions they were offering. She also knew there was no way she could start her own business without getting insurance. Medical bills would have made it a failure. So she did what she had to do. She turned to her deep respect for the law. Starting with the Immune Deficiency Foundation, where she later became a board member, and continuing at SEIU, and through the National Women's Law Center, she became a strong advocate for healthcare reform. It was no longer about her, it was about everyone else who has been in a similar situation. Lisa began in her fight for basic human right and common decency for thousands, if not millions, of people. She was instrumental in the campaign. Being a woman is not a pre-existing condition, and was beaming when the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, repeated it on the evening news. She watched C-SPAN and told me all the fun things that were going on. The Patients Protection and Affordable Care Act was passed, and then later signed into law by President Barack Obama 2 years ago this coming Friday. Lisa can see the big picture now. The law had passed. Millions of people will be able to get affordable health insurance. Prices should come down, and she was ready to live a better life. We lost a champion. My wish in the coming months is to get with major team players like SEIU, IDF, National Women's Law Center, HCAN, etc., and any individual who would like to help to create a scholarship in Lisa's honor. And since Lisa cannot be here to accept this award, I would like to hand it over for her prayers. Joe and Betty Ann, it's for you.
Thank you so much, Sean. It is now my honor to present the third award of the evening to the Honorable Joan Kohout, class of 1974. Judge Kohout has been a Monroe County Family Court judge for 23 years and was elected to her third 10-year term as a family court judge in November of 2008. In 1976, Judge Kohout joined the Monroe County Public Defender's Office and was the first woman attorney in that office. She worked there for 12 years handling criminal cases, appellate cases, and family law cases. She is a champion for girls and their needs in the juvenile justice system, a longtime advocate of mediation in family cases. Judge Kohout has been awarded the Distinguished Jurist Award by the Center for Dispute Settlement. While at Albany Law School, she served as one of the first presidents of the Women's Law Caucus, which is still going strong today. They helped us put together this program, so we appreciate your efforts in that regard as well. Her friend and colleague, Carol Mao, who is a partner at Boylan Code, told us the following. Judge Kohout has devoted her legal career to providing justice for women attorneys and women and girls in her own quiet, steadfast way, opening doors that were closed, providing opportunities where there were none, and lighting a path that otherwise could not be discerned. For exemplifying the ideals of Kate Stoneman and serving as an inspiration and a role model for women and girls, I am pleased to present the 2012 Kate Stoneman Award to Judge Joan Kohout.
I am so privileged and so honored to be here. Thank you so much. But really, this award should go to all of the brave and proud and strong and wise women and men who've guided me over the years. And to my husband Michael, who's here today, who's been patient and supportive, who's allowed me to spend time and energy taking care of other families as a family court judge in a position that honestly is the most challenging and rewarding that I'll ever have. As I took a few minutes before the festivities today and looked over the list of all the award winners, I just was so moved that now I will be part of this group as well. Because there are so many of those people who at certain times have touched my life and had an amazing, amazing thing. One of them's here today, Judge Beverly Tobin, old friend, colleague, family court judge. Thank you, Beverly. And watching today, I understand, is Catherine Katz, Kathy and her former partner, Greta Powers, also a reward winner, gave me my first job. They saw something in me that I didn't see at the time. They were one of the only all-women firms in Albany. There were two, both small. They trusted me to handle matters in family court, in civil litigation, in criminal court. And it was Kathy, it really was Kathy, who gave me the introduction and the guidance and the confidence to know that I could handle family matters with their complexity, their emotionality. Also, there's Bernie Harvey, who's a professor. He was the very first person who offered a Women in the Law course here at Albany Law School in about 1973. It was a seminar that I was privileged to sit in on. And it was Professor Harvey who opened my eyes to the fact that the law could be used to help define gender issues, to protect women and children, and to promote their well-being. I, again, am so proud and happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Judge Garry has been an Associate Justice of the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division, 3rd Department, since March of 2009. She was elected to the 6th Judicial District in November of 2006. This was a historic achievement, I'm told, crossing gender and party lines as the only Democrat and only the second female to be elected from Shenango County. So quite an accomplishment. Justice Garry began her distinguished legal career as a law clerk to the Honorable Irene Ingraham, class of 1960, New York State Supreme Court, followed by 12 years in private practice at the Joyce Law Firm. Judge Leslie Stein, who is in the audience and one of our former recipients of the award, is Judge Garry's colleague on the bench, and she told us that Judge Garry is truly one of the most dedicated jurists I know. She often asks herself if her decision will make sense to the average citizen. She sets an example for all women attorneys through her extensive involvement in numerous professional organizations. Jessie Aitchison, class of 95, says that Judge Garry leads by example. She's always prepared, she's competent, and has paved the way for all of us to follow in her footsteps. We are very fortunate that Judge Garry spends a lot of time here on campus with us. She frequently participates on career panels with the Women's Law Caucus and the Diversity Affairs Office, and she's a member of the National Alumni Association's Board of Directors, so we get to see her actually quite a lot. For her tireless efforts in empowering women, I am thrilled to present the 2012 Kate Stoneman Award to Judge Beth Carey.
It is a tremendous honor to receive this award. And I want to say, in the tradition of Kate Stoneman, that there is always another way to do things. And that, I think, has been the story of my career. So if a path seems closed, you might find another path. And if what you're seeking to do is right and for the right reasons, then you can and will create change. And each of us has the power to do that. 6 years ago, I did this awful, amazing, terrifying, wonderful thing when I ran for the Supreme Court position. But it was what I had always wanted to do. And last week, just this past week, it's been 6 years now, but this past week I ran into someone in town, and she asked me, "Beth, how are you doing? Are you doing good work?" And I said, thank you. Yes, I do my best every single day, and it's wonderful work. And for her support and others like her, that's why I get to do that work. What she told me then was something that she had never previously shared. She said, you know, when I put that letter in the paper supporting you, I almost immediately got a phone call from unnamed powers that be. And I was told in no uncertain terms that I was causing a disturbance. That in fact, there was a plan and there were people who were going to take the position of judge and people the other positions that flow from that. It had been decided. But Beth, she said, I supported you and I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad that she did. There were some number of people in that line, but there was no room for me. There was no place for me in that line. And so with the help of a lot of very good people, I made a new line. And so the people in that line, there were a lot of them, but my line, I happened to be then standing at the very front of it. So there is always another way to go about things. I grew up on a dairy farm approximately 20 miles from here, and my dad used to tell me that I would someday be so grateful for that opportunity. At the time, it seemed doubtful to me, because I thought my friends seemed to have this amazing quantity of something called free time, but as I've grown older, I've come to understand, I think, more of what he really meant. And that is that my dad loved that farm. And when you love what you do, then a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, it's hardly like work at all, because there's nothing else you'd really rather do. So I am deeply grateful to Albany Law School because they have allowed me, through my education, the opportunities to do work for my life as a lawyer and now as a judge that has always been, sometimes too, demanding, challenging, and ultimately then satisfying and fulfilling. Pardon me. The single greatest fortune of my legal career was at the very beginning, and that was because I was hired by the Honorable Ira S. Ingraham to serve as his law clerk. And that opportunity to serve with someone of such tremendous good character was essential to my career at that point. So I thank you, Judge Ingraham. He has been throughout my career a tremendous mentor. But more than that, at the beginning, he was such a shining example of what a judge could be and how much character counts. It does. It always does. In the end, it's all that any of us have. My good fortune has continued. I am very grateful for the support of my colleagues, and so many of them are here. I'm not going to name you each, but I've been the recipient of the support and encouragement of my colleagues and the staff of that amazing institution. I do want to at least recognize our acting presiding justice, the Honorable Thomas Mercure, because he has done a tremendous job of seeing us through what has been a very difficult time in this last year. He's been calm, steadfast, and just wonderful. So thank you, Judge Mercure. Absolutely remiss not to notice the prior award recipients, the Honorable Karen Peters and, of course, the Honorable Leslie Steins. My legal assistant, Catherine Ambrosio, is also here. She's a member of the class of 2010. My brother and my sister-in-law, Charlie and Nina, are here. My wife, Betsy, is here. And Betsy, without your constant support, there is not any way that I could ever be standing here and receiving this award. So, thank you. And she was a doctor before there were many. And so the story I'll leave you with, is that in second grade, a classmate came to me. He was very angry, and he said, "You're a liar, because your mother's not a doctor. She must be a nurse." Fortunately, she knew better, and so then did I.
Grab the microphone. My name is Bud Malone. I serve with Beth Garry in the appellate division. I'm on the board of trustees here in the class of 72. Emmy Netter was a classmate and friend of mine. But I went up, and a lot of you don't know about Beth Garry. One, she's one of the most wonderful people I have ever met. And if you sit up there in the back row and turn around, you will actually see where she grew up. If you look at the Helderbergs, that's the town of Fern, and that's where she grew up. And I actually knew her father, Harry Garry, who she identified as a farmer who was active in politics. But you don't know much about her growing up, and I don't know much about it. I know that she went to BI, and then she went to Bishop McGinn. But in regards to the town of Bern, Kevin? I invited him but did not tell. This is Kevin Crozier, who's the supervisor of the town of Bern, who grew up next to me.
Boy, I bet you didn't expect that, did you? Well, the first thing I can say is we call her Liz. My wife yells at me because they chop everybody's name, but I knew her as Liz. And yes, her mom was a doctor because she stitched me up, fixed me up, and sent me on my way all these years. But not only did she take care of me and my son and my whole entire family, but my grandparents as well. So this is a great honor to be able to be here with you today, Liz, and to let you know that the town of Bern is a small community of only about 2,800 people. But what makes us special is the mountains that surround us. And what you had said today, Liz, about your mom and your dad and loving the area is so true. It is what has inspired you to become what you are, and most of the people to fight to preserve what they have up there, those rich natural resources. Those are the things that people really do love. And I will miss the times with your dad sitting at the kitchen table with a little honey in my tea and listening to some of the things that he had to say about our community. But it is what's inspired you to become what you are, Charlie and Anina. And it's just a wonderful place to live and grow up. So I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
That actually concludes our program, but I want to take a minute to have us all give a round of applause to all of our recipients again today. Because our recipients are truly inspiring, and as I look out in the audience, I see lots of other people out there who are also very accomplished and inspiring. So it's a wonderful program and always fun to get together for the Stoneman Day. At last year's program, we announced the establishment of a Kate Stoneman Scholarship, which was made possible by a bequest from Minnie Natter. And we are continuing to seek funds to enhance the scholarship, so you know you're not going to get out of here without my asking you for some money. We are continuing to build the scholarship, and so we do ask that you consider making a gift. There are some brochures that can be found down at the registration desk and also at the reception. So this does conclude our program. On behalf of the Kate Stoneman Committee, I want to thank you again for attending. Please join me and our award recipients at the reception immediately following, and the reception is going to be down in the East Foyer. So thank you so much for coming again.